Welcome, Nigeria. It's the morning Crossfire 99.3 Nigeria Info. It's the last lap on the show. And if you've just joined us, you just missed 2 full hours. The morning Crossfire starts at 6 a.m. How many times did I tell you that? Make sure you join us from 6 a.m. so you can enjoy the full package of the show. But this is time we have our panelists and guests discussing important issues on the morning Crossfire from 8 to 9. And today we're looking at autism and care for special children. On the show today, this is an important issue for us to look at in Nigeria. And we're streaming live on Facebook, also on YouTube, at Nigeria Info FM. Just search for us, follow us, subscribe, and you would be notified every time we're live. On Twitter, you can also reach us at Nigeria Info FM, but make sure to use the hashtag Morning Crossfire so we can see all your tweets on the subject today. Welcome to the show. I am Wemimo Adewuni.
And I am Sheriff Quadry. It's a pleasure to know that you are there listening to us. Our phone lines will be giving out in a moment, but you can join us on WhatsApp on 0809 597 5805. Keep dropping your thoughts as soon as we start the conversation this morning on that line 0809 597 5805. Welcome to the show this morning.
Now let us welcome joining us on the show today, Mr. Bidemi Yunusa. He's the head of school, Patrick Speech and Languages Center, GRA in Lagos. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good to have you here. You can watch us live and also join us if you have a special child, especially an autistic child. This is a time to pay full attention. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 160 children has an autism spectrum disorder. While some people with the disorder can live independently, others have severe disabilities and require lifelong care and support. World Autism Awareness Day is observed on the 2nd of April every year, and it raises awareness on autism. But today, we're looking at this all-important issue, and we'll start off by asking Mr. Yunusa, what really is autism?
Autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects the side of the brain that controls speech, controlled behavior, and then interaction with others. And then those areas, because physically they are all okay, you will not detect until when you move closer to such child, they discover that those things are missing. You know, ironically, in our society, we always think that because I did not talk on time when I was very young. Then my child, if he's 2 years, he's not talking, don't worry, he will talk. We have that kind of culture.
Yeah.
And then because...
And we're praying for that
Yes,
child.
I will keep on praying for that. Because like I told you, physically, they are all okay. But you just discover that when he's supposed to have his first word, he's not saying anything. 1 year, 2 years, no word. 3 years, he still struggles with some words. He cannot construct a sentence. Then you always see him doing things in isolation. He doesn't want to mingle with people. He does his own thing in his own way. And any slight thing you see, it will trigger the behavior. And people are complaining, you don't control your child is still like that. And because they look at it, like I told you, the people will never be aware because physically they are okay. So, but until when you now discover that the speech, if you compare with other children, is not at that par. When it comes to playing, interacting with other people, he prefers to do things on his own. When he clinches to something and he will not let it go, he arranges things in a particular way all the time. He wants things to be done in his own way or in our own way. He doesn't want any breakup. Whatever what he does every day, whatever he does every day, he or she wants it to be repeated in that way all the time. So he doesn't want a breakup.
Repeated actions.
Repeated action. That means if you arrange things, you want to arrange it in the same way. If you put something somewhere, you want that thing to be there, you don't take it up. Because to his own brain, he has captured that thing that it must be in that way. If you just drop a pen, moving a pen from one area to another area, it will trigger his behavior. Why? He wants that thing to be in the same way. And he doesn't want any interruption.
This description would, somehow, I'm looking at a society, I'm sure many parents would think this is just a very stubborn child. She's just a very problematic child. Why can't you be like every other person? And some of them might just beat the child into submission, like, African parents like to do.
That's why, because we as a parent, we look at the culture first. but we don't really observe. We compare that. Look, like I told you, example I gave you that. Oh, don't forget from the dad I got information that he did not talk until maybe 4 or 5 years, and then when dad was so young, our environment was so safe, and we ate fresh food.
Right.
You can't compare to this environment now. So the main thing is that observation. When my child is 6 months, the developmental pediatricians, we have guided you those milestones that he needs to attain.
Right.
Is he crawling at the right time? Is he walking at the right time? Does he babbles? All those things we guide you. If the word is really coming at all, then you should be worried at that moment, then engage the pediatrician. They will guide you what to do.
All right. Are you saying that once there is a delay in all of these milestones, there is a possibility of a child being exposed to, autism spectrum disorder?
You are leading me into what we call the cause of autism. And then to be candid with you, as at now, there is no universal conclusion that this is specific the cause of autism. People are coming with different permutations. It might be genetics, it might be hereditary, it might be vaccine, it might be environment.
Come back a bit. Vaccine,
Yes.
how so? Remember that this is a big deal right now.
Yes.
In many countries of the world, people withdrawing their children and saying
Right.
we don't want them vaccinated. You
Yes.
just mentioned in passing. Let's settle on this. Is vaccination a possible cause of autism?
Like I told you, it's part of the permutation we came about, because people are looking at what might really cause that thing. Something that because of the vaccination during the pregnancy might also lead to something like that, because it happens after birth. You have your child when you have your child. It's after the birth you now discover that some things are missing.
Right.
So they will have to go back to that before the birth. What happened to the pregnancy? Where did the woman go? Like I told you, it's a permutation. So
this is not scientifically proven.
We don't have a universal conclusion. Everybody is coming with their own that this might lead to this one. So,
Just to be sure, so that those who are listening do not then begin to withdraw themselves from vaccination while pregnant.
they are all
This is
permutation.
not scientifically proven. They're
Right.
just assumptions.
That's why I mentioned that universal. We have not concluded on that.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned some of the things that parents should watch out for, and a lot of people are thinking right now, listening to us, that are experiencing or seeing delays in their children, uttering his or her first word or trying to play with people. Are these things that you've mentioned, are they like concrete signs of a child, of an autistic child?
That is the pyramid of autism.
Like it cannot happen to ordinary child who is just having a delay.
Autism is a spectrum. We have mild, we have severe.
Okay.
For the mild one, the child might have the word. He might have some good behavior.
Might not be throwing tantrums.
No, you don't have to cover that. What his own is, he doesn't like to interact. He plays on his own.
Okay.
So it depends how severe. Severity means that the child possesses all those symptoms.
Oh, okay.
No
Okay.
word,
Okay.
very restless,
Right.
plays in isolation.
Right.
Some might pick only 1 or 2 out of it.
Hmm.
But I told you, because under the speech, we have about many things under the speech. We have like echolalia, how are you? Like poor articulation of words. Those words are not clear. We have limited words. And we have limited what have to do with that some children, they will never use their word until when they're being pushed to the wall.
They would not speak
They will
until
not
they really
speak.
have to.
Until ask them what do you want, they will not tell you. But they will, willingly they will not say it.
I used to be like that. I used to be very quiet. So I used to think
What changed?
I'm gonna
Now
ask
you're
him.
a talkative.
I want to
What?
ask him. I want to ask him
You are
that
not
what
loo-
changed.
you are looking at the
They used to call
personality.
me like very quiet when I was a baby. I would just sit down
In a
where
place.
and anywhere.
And
they
you
put
had
me, that's
everybody
where.
worried, yeah?
As a matter of fact, they used to call me Jokolejo.
What's
When
that?
I was, because I was always
no,
sitting
say-
in a
come
place.
come again. Joe.
Jokolejo. Speaking, when
language
you
is that?
sit on a snake, yeah, like I just sit down, like
Very quiet.
very quiet, and I can remember myself sitting down very quiet.
But now, All things
But
are passed away.
when
So
you-
I want to ask you now, at what point should the parent be worried when their kid is the quiet type?
Yeah.
from 1.5 years, basically, like I told you, from 6 months to 1 year, those milestones, if they are not there, you need to see pediatrician. They are equipped in that area to guide you, and they will tell you the necessary step you should take. From 1 year old, start asking questions.
Right.
Start visiting hospitals. Ask for the specialist to guide you. They will tell you to pass. The child will pass through a series of tests before they will come up with diagnosis.
Right.
A child must be diagnosed first. We don't just assume that this is what and what. Like your own case, if you pass through the diagnosis, they will tell you that nothing is wrong. It's your own personality.
Right.
What is
And that personality could change over
Yes,
time.
Right.
So it's two different things. That's why we don't just assume. Meet the professionals, meet the medical people. They will guide you what you are going to do, and they will do a proper diagnosis. When you have your diagnosis, they will know. Sometimes most of the children living with autism have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD.
Okay.
They might have the word, like I said, they might have the word, they might have some other thing, but they have symptoms of autism.
Right.
So pediatrician will guide you who to see, so that they can be able to put the child on a therapy.
So when a parent finds out that this child is autistic, after diagnosis, of course, is it curable?
If you discover it at a tender age, I won't say it's curable. A child living with autism might become an adult living with autism.
Oh, wow.
The only difference is that at the tender age, you'll be able to put those lapses, you put it in place for that child. And before you know it, a child will fit into society. But once in a while, you see that trace in that child, if an expert. We have many professors in university that are living with autism.
Really?
If Lionel Messi is living with autism, then many people, they are also living with autism. It's only how you manage it. He was diagnosed at the age of 8 years,
Right.
and the dad took that responsibility.
Right.
So if you discover early, you can work around it. Number one, no speech. Get a speech therapy to work around the speech. Behavior. Get a behavior therapist to work around the behavior and to build his social interaction. Look, one thing about it is that it can be taught, they can be guided.
Right.
They learn.
Right.
The only thing is that the way they learn might be different from others, but they learn and they adjust to the environment, and they also make impact in society.
The major challenge here is awareness. Parents are not aware. Parents just have kids, and when the kid is reserved, they just feel that that's his own nature. Look at his sister. The sister is very active. Don't worry, he will come around. How do we begin to sensitize parents now to be more aware, to be more focused? And another part of all this discussion is the cost implications. Seeing these therapies, seeing that therapist is almost looking like something that is beyond the reach of an average Nigerian.
The like what you said, because one thing is that is therapeutic service, is it affordable? Then if not, we have what we called empowering the parent,
Okay.
imparting them about the knowledge of this, how to work with their children. Because like in my own center, we have different services that we provide.
Okay.
And if it's called a child or a parent cannot afford, we have what we call outreach,
Okay.
where we get all the experts, psychiatrists, psychologists from abroad, the therapists in-house in the country. Then we call the parents, we create awareness, they come for free, and we guide them. We teach them what to do and how to teach their child on to get results.
This is carried out by your center.
Yes, by God's grace.
And how often is this done?
Every 3 months. We are going to have one next month as well
And this happens in Lagos.
in GRA Keja.
So let's talk about those people who are not in Lagos. I mean, you are doing fantastic work.
Yes.
And then we have people who they're not in the cities, and they have these children, and they do not have access to this kind of amazing work you're doing. What happens to them?
Right.
Let me just shock you. Those things that we do, we have parents that they came from Port Harcourt, they came from Abuja and Kaduna. What we normally do is this: when they come, after that outreach, we put them on a WhatsApp group. The same concern that they saw during that process, they are all available. I available every Wednesday in that forum for behavior and some other things. Speech come on Friday. So all the consultants, we also on the front to guide them to continue the therapy with them. So we don't just leave them. We mold, we shaped the child according to the plan and from what we have seen. And they also update us on how the child is doing. So we continue to guide them until when they come back, so that, because it's not a 1 man, a day program. They also will come back for an updates where we now review the performance of that child. They will now give them what next they're going to do.
If they're coming from these very far places, it means there is a high demand and there is little supply. Is there intervention by government or general hospitals or even primary healthcare centers? Because we have these across the nation.
We do. That's why somebody has to fill in the gap. Government, no. And then I won't even go far with that, because most of them, they have the children living with autism and they know where to go, taking them out of the country until when it generates, they bring them back here. And we have many people that came from abroad because of their system there and their culture. So that area is no, because I think they don't feel the impact. But on our own as well, because like what you mentioned, we also discovered that there are many bad therapists outside.
Bad, you said bad therapist?
I just use the word loosely, because many parents will give in an info what they have gone through or what they have passed through, and they haven't. Who is regulating those people? That's why we also have what we call training institute, where we train therapists, and they are going to be given license, and they are going to be monitored, because when you pay, you can easily lodge your complaint to us. They will take it up from that therapist. Because
so for many of these therapists, they go through university, don't they? Just like medical doctors. So if there are still bad therapists, where were they trained?
That is a big question, because I'm a licensed autism specialist from the IBCC. That is a world body. I have my license number. If I give you my number, you can just Google it. You get all my data.
Yeah.
I can easily complain to the main body about, since I have the license number. But most of these people, and then the parents on their own, like you said, we have high demand, and we are not that many in the country.
Right.
So the parent will just take anything they see. In as much you can work with their child, and then perhaps maybe at a low cost, they will just take you. But they are not mindful of the side effect. Like the occupational therapy, there are some parts of your body that you can touch, and there are some that you should not touch.
Right.
So if you get a novice, they will just do whatever they used to do, and you get the side effect from it. So most of these things, we need to be guided, and that's why we have the institute where we train them for 4 months.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation. We need to go for a break, but when we return, please hold on to this question. What does it take to care for an autistic child? We've said a lot this morning already. And if you've met a parent who has been taking care of an autistic child before, you could actually literally feel their pain and struggles. Now, when we come back, you please shed light on what it takes really to care for an autistic child. Lagos, Nigeria. And it's time for us to go for a break. We're back in a moment. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Wemimo Adewuni. When we come back, we'd have a licensed practitioner in disability and a specialist in the care for special children, Mrs. Joyce Onofowokon, joining us also on the conversation. We'll be back shortly.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment. on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Yes, we're back on the Morning Crossfire 99.3 Nigeria Info, and today we're taking a look at autism and the care for special children. We have joining us in the studio right now Mrs. Joyce Onofowokon, licensed practitioner on disability and specialist also in the care for special children. Thanks for joining us, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Bidemi Yunusa is still here as the head of school, Patrick Speech and Languages Center here in Lagos. And we've had a full conversation about autism and the full spectrum and how to identify if a child probably has autism and what to do, where to go to, and where not to go to. Now, let's switch it over a bit and talk about costs. This is one thing we mentioned, just before the break.
Right.
And, there are so many specialists to see. If you have a child who is just quietly sitting by themselves, or who has speech disorders, or who just wants things in a perfect place, you want to check out this child. But then I'm not sure the general hospitals are the places to go to if you have specialists here who can diagnose. But Mr. Yunusa, what's the cost like really for parents, both for the diagnosis and for the care of these children?
To get access to those services, it's costly. And one thing about autism, and not only in Nigeria, anywhere in the whole world, is that it involves sophisticated things that you are going to put in place. So because of that, both the consultant and the material you use, either for diagnosis or for therapy, they are on the high price. So the cost of services is also high. I will not just to be specific with you compared to, although when you compare those things with some of the private schools in Lagos,
Right.
they are very low.
Oh, okay.
Now that you brought that in,
blunt, they are very low.
but for an average parent, I'm looking at those on the 30,000 naira minimum wage spectrum.
It's no good area.
No-go area. Wow. Let's bring in Mrs. Onofowokon here. You deal with children with special needs, especially those who have speech disorders. Let's start with the costs also. So for children who need this, specialist care to help them with speech, how affordable is it?
I think this is a country that I think it's unnecessarily expensive. It is unnecessarily expensive because it's so expensive that the mother in Agege cannot afford it. But there is a Lagos state law that says that services to children who have disability is free. And people are not tapping into the law. And be it autism, be whatever. If it is autism, there is the speech delay.
Okay.
You can get speech services from the state hospital if people are willing to use it.
Okay.
If it is the motor delay, physiotherapists are also in
The state hospitals.
the state hospitals. In other countries, I'm more familiar with the United States. If you have a disability, every single therapy is covered by the government under the disability law. Because the law states that if you have a child with disability, all services are covered.
Right.
Again, we are more familiar with in the United States. We do not wait until age 6 to diagnose a child with autism. Before I relocated 2 years ago, we are beginning to treat 6-month-old.
Oh, wow. 6-month-old.
Yes, who have autism.
You
So
relocated
how
2
is he
years ago.
identify a 6-month-old who has autism?
Because there are what we call red flags. There are red flags.
Tell us about this.
If a child is not babbling by age 6 months, then you know that there's something that may be wrong. If the child looks through you, not look at you, you will, it sends a message to you. If you are unable to breastfeed your child, the child does not want to cuddle with you, that also is a red flag. Even though the American Pediatrics Association says you do not diagnose by 18 months, But the red flags are there. And what we did then was we just treat as is. We get provisional diagnosis, pending treatments. One other thing I've seen here, which I think is totally wrong, is people who do not have the required certification diagnosing people. I am not empowered to diagnose.
Right.
I can say it quacks like a duck, it is yellow like a duck, it waddles like a duck. Then I go to the neurologist. I think it is a duck. And it is left for the neurologist to say, yes, Mrs. Onofowokon, it is a duck.
Or it is not.
Or it is not.
Right.
Because a swan can look like a duck. And in my 30 years, have I missed it? I've missed it sometimes. Because there are some kids who have sensory integration issues or who have coordination of eye issues.
Right.
And because of that, they stay in corner to protect themselves.
Yeah.
And so we think that they're autistic because they're not playing with their peers.
Okay.
But there are other underlying things. So there are several things you look at to say, is the speech delay secondary to autism? Is the inability to crawl secondary to autism? It is not just one thing that gives you an ASD diagnosis.
You've mentioned so many things.
So many.
I mean, in the
So
bread.
many.
And my worry again comes to accessibility. So for parents who identify these issues, and you really need to do thorough diagnosis to know exactly what the problem is, do our general hospitals have these facilities to truly diagnose?
In my work as the special advisor to the former governor, there is a phenomenal doctor, and I want to acknowledge her, Dr. Anima Shaun of Lasuth. She's good. I'm not being paid to promote her.
Right.
But she's somebody, if anyone calls me today, I will say, go to Dr. Anima Shaun. And she would be able to say, yes, it is autism. But even after the diagnosis, the biggest issue here is what next? Some of the schools are too expensive. Patrick's speech, they do a lot. They give financial aid.
Yeah.
But how many people can they afford to give financial aid to?
Right.
So it is so expensive, but I think it is the responsibility of the state government to take it up.
I was gonna ask you this, Mrs. Onofowokon, before I go back to Mr. Yunusa. I'm glad that you've driven us to the state government, because I was going to say, you mentioned a doctor who is quite fantastic. Do we have enough hands, enough specialists to take care of the population of autistic children that we have, especially in Lagos here?
I don't think so. And I would also tell you that it's only within the last, I would say 10 or 8, probably 8 to 10 years, that even the pediatricians in the United States are beginning to understand the need to identify early and treat early. Yes. But if with us as specialists, we have been able to convince them to say, you guys need to look more into this. I don't even know if our doctors, I met a child at age 9 months. Nobody diagnosed this child with cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
9 months?
Wow.
She went to the doctors every time. So we need to train the doctors. It is not enough for the directors in the ministries to go for these trainings abroad. It's not enough for them to go.
Is this an emergency need? Is this an emergency concern to you?
It is an emergency because disability is here to stay. We cannot continue to deceive ourselves, and we cannot continue to say, pray about it, reject it in Jesus' name, fast
not
and
my
pray.
portion.
It is not my portion. No. But it is first and foremost the responsibility of the government, because if you don't do something now, it's better to spend 1,000 naira now than spend 5 billion 10 years to come.
You were a special advisor. You said this yourself, so I'm going to come on to you on this. So for the last administration, what exactly was done? I mean, you mentioned a fantastic doctor. That's just one in 2,000s of children or parents. And you mentioned a law in existence, free healthcare for children. What is this law about? Is this domesticated in Lagos? Is it just across the country? And what rights does this offer the citizens?
I can only speak for what I know and I'm aware of. There's a Special People's Law 2015 that says there is free medical for every child in Lagos State. More so if you have a disability. But again, these parents take their kids to the hospital, I'm sorry to say, and they're asking them to pay. When I was there, I got phone calls from the parents because I say, you go to the government hospital, call me. And once they call me, I tell whoever is asking them to pay, I'm coming down, I'm coming to pay, but you better give me a receipt that says straight to my office. Right. And when I mentioned it to the former special advisor, health, phenomenal human being, he said, Mrs. Onofowokon, give us the names.
Right.
Give us the names of these people asking for money. What I do not know, have the doctors also been trained about the law?
Do they know? Are they aware?
Do they know the law? Are they aware of the law? So there has to be a change of thinking. We have to train all our doctors about the law. About the law. A mother who is struggling with a child who has a disability comes all the way from Ikorodu, gets to the hospital. You are asking that mother to decide, should I feed this child? Or should or should the child see a specialist? And again, there are hospitals in Ikorodu.
Right.
Why does the child have to come all the way to Lasuth? Where are the specialists in Ikorodu? So it's mind-boggling. And it's,
I would really love to know. I know that I've seen parents, try to flag this law and say we have a right to get free treatment for these children. And which is why I was asking you about that law. I've heard doctors also say, were the drugs bought for free? Why do you want it for free? And who told you it's for free? And then we find people who really don't really know what this law. I'm really working out at finding the particular law and reading it out to you so you would know how to pursue it. But we'll go to the phone lines very soon and ask you if you know about this law and if you've pursued it and you've gotten free treatments for your children, you can then share with us. But about autism and autistic children, Mr. Yinsa, before we go to the phones, let's talk about this burden on parents, to care for an autistic child. I interviewed about 75-year-old woman who has a 40-year-old son who is autistic. And while I went there with the crew, I could see fear on the faces of my colleagues because, he had the adult kind of tantrum. And it was I was wondering how she had managed for 40 full years. Her husband left her because of this child. So let's talk about the burden of taking care of autistic children. And is there also counseling for the parents? Because it's quite a lot to bear.
I think we are missing that.
Okay.
The burden that the parents show that concerning these children with autism, because most of them generally, they had a fear of unknown. What will happen to that child in future? And then basically we are all looking at children living with autism. We also ignore the adult living with autism. We emphasize on the children, and the adult is going to be the whatever the aftermath of what we are doing now.
Right.
Most of these parents, the stigma is there, financial aspect is there, physical, health wise. Now, all in all, is what will the child become in future?
Right. That question
is overwhelming, and they need more of counseling than the children. We are missing that.
Do we have support groups for parents with autistic children?
In fairness, Ms. Onofowokon has done a lot. She is my mother. So because she has done a lot, and that is the first time we have the impact in Lagos. I'm telling you not here.
Right.
What she has done when she was special advisor, we felt the impact in Patrick. And not only Patrick, in fact, she assembled all the special needs schools and the professionals. We had a series of meetings to know how we are going to handle the children. She's not there again.
I was going to ask you,
That was a big sigh.
Do you still feel that government's presence now?
I think you should see the tone when I say she's not there again.
Yeah, it was a deep sigh.
Because before she came, zero. She came, she put the lights on. We don't know. It had to do with the interest, the passion of the government. Our passions illuminated destiny in Lagos. Many parents felt that impact. And I hope somehow, somewhere in government, somebody will just have to illuminate that impact, because we really need it in Lagos, especially the parents. That was a grant for the parents. I'm telling you on here now because I'm part of it. She has done a lot for the parents when it comes, because one thing about financial is that how you support the parents to be empowered, to be independent. It's only when they have a stable source of income.
Right.
She has done that as well.
Mr. Novokon, what drove you? What was your motive? Because I
think
could
she's
see
blushing.
him.
I mean, seeing someone giving him all the
He's very
accolades.
emotional. He's very emotional about what you did back then. What motivated you?
I don't like to be put on the spot because I'm not here to promote myself. But it's good to be acknowledged for what somebody has done.
Right.
I really can't tell you. I think what happened was, after I graduated from school, my first job was to help set up an early intervention program in Massachusetts.
Okay.
After a while, I walked away and I worked with the elders who had disability. And I met an 87-year-old woman, completely deaf.
Wow.
I read her records and I felt she had recurring ear issues that nobody attended to. All they should have done was, when she was a baby, to attend to the recurring. Nobody did.
And now she has a lifelong disability.
She's completely deaf. She's dead now. So I had to go back to early intervention. Yes, I can hear him about what do you do with elders. While you're treating and trying to think of what to do with elders, we need to start an early intervention program ASAP. We need to identify early. We need to begin to treat early, so that it is a stage in time saves 9.
Let me put you on a very tough spot, and I hope you can answer this question.
Yes.
So there is a list of commissioners right now for Lagos State. Have you looked at that list? Do you think there's anyone on that list who will fill the bill to manage healthcare for Lagos, and this person can deliver on those things that you delivered on?
I plead the fifth. And the fifth
I knew this was coming.
is to self-incrimination.
I knew that was coming. But the phone lines are buzzing. It's time to take your calls and comments. Sincerely, I've seen parents who, had to manage children with autism, and it's no joke.
It's enormous.
It's no joke. It's enormous. It's a big burden both for the parents and for children, and especially for children who the issue has not been identified and they're just being kicked about. No one really knows what's wrong with them. We'll give you our phone numbers right now so you can join us on the show and leave us your thoughts. Also on Facebook, also on YouTube.
Right.
You can reach us on Twitter. You can reach us over the phones. You can reach us on WhatsApp. I mean, you can virtually reach us everywhere.
Everywhere.
You are.
We're
We are
in
there
your face.
too. We're up there in your face. We'll give you the phone numbers now so you can call us.
Call us on 0127709993, 0127719993, 0127729993, and 0127739993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
So we just talked about Lasoda right now, and Mrs. Awonofo wouldn't answer my direct question about the commissioners, but thinks that Lasoda could help solve many of these issues.
Lasoda is the Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs. I can say categorically, Lasoda needs to be revamped. It needs to step up to the plate. It needs to accept the responsibility as the conduit between the parents or the adults with disability and the rest of the state.
Is there enough funding for LASODA? Because without funding, they can't do anything.
LASODA is like a mini parastatal of a ministry.
Okay.
I can say it. I've said it to them. In the past, it did not live up to my expectations of what I hope LASODA is. Hopefully, with this administration, LASODA will step up to the plate and the parents can feel free. People can feel free and go to LASODA and say, you know what, I went to the hospital and they're asking me to pay.
And they can take up this issue.
Yes,
Right.
it wasn't my job to follow parents to the hospital. That is LASODA's responsibility.
But you did it anyway.
Let's speak with Kayode. He's been on the
Right.
line for a while from Ikeja. Kayode, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Wemimo.
Morning to you.
Yeah, I want to thank the madam and the gentleman for the work they've been doing. But there's something I want to also point attention to. I'm aware that alcohol during pregnancy is causes what we call, I think, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. But recent studies also have shown that there's a link between alcohol during pregnancy and autism. So I really want them to try to
Well, let's ask the
shed some light
experts.
on that.
Yeah,
All right.
Mr. Yunusa, you've just said there are no identified causes. Is alcohol one of the suspects?
No.
No. He says no. Let's get back to
Okay.
the phones. Let's see who's here on the line. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
Morning.
good morning.
Hello? Okay, we have Judge on the line from Aja. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Wemisco.
Okay.
You called me as if you gave me salami. Good morning, Judge.
Where is my mate now?
You should be asking Sheriff. Please go ahead with your comments. Yes.
Morning. Yeah. Actually, the autistic issue, we should give kudos to the woman.
Mrs.
Mrs. Onofowoko.
God bless you, man. Once more.
Amen.
People that take care of these autistic children, they are special people.
Yeah.
God calling people. It's not for everybody. Actually, I'm a head of an orphanage group. We go to visit orphanage homes. So we see a lot of autistic children. So the policy and the law you people are talking of is not known. People are not aware of it. Even maternal care in Nigeria, most women don't know about maternal care in Nigeria. They don't even know how to go about it. That if you want to deliver your child, it's free in our local government hospitals.
Free?
So yes,
I can tell you for free that it's not free when you get there.
it's not free when you get, but it's free.
You mean it's meant
it is supposed to be
Yeah,
free.
it's meant to be free.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, George. Let's make the comments very quick, shall we? We have limited time. Larry is here
Right.
from Ikoyi. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah. Mrs. Onofoko, thank you very much. You really enlightened me on many things that I didn't know about this morning. And I believe many Nigerians are listening to you. I just want to say that since the last administration and the current administration is the same, you know what I'm talking about, they are the same party, there should be kind of seamless, working together with this administration. So I would like if Mrs. Onofowoko could relate with the current administration and look into it, how possibly what was done.
You need to be watching us on Facebook or YouTube to see a reaction, to your comments. And our hands go like, really, what can I do? We have John on the line from Ikotu. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Wemimo.
Morning.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning.
Good morning. And to the guests in the house, I say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you guys brought this topic on. I know one of the leading banks in Nigeria don't have a day for autism, but I think from the government side, they need to do a lot more awareness. Because just last Saturday, I know of an organization that organized a workshop
Right.
Because I was part of the volunteer for the program. And the truth of it was, to me, it was actually the first time I would be in the gathering of parents and teachers and development experts that are taking care of these children. And I felt so bad because many of these parents, by the time they finished saying what they go through, some of them, there was even a woman that actually spoke about selling her 2 cars in training the children, trying to get it diagnosed and things like that.
It's a lot, really. It's a lot of burden.
Government needs to do a lot of awareness, and I will please beg Madam and everyone, because I know the banks that actually do this yearly day for autism children, they have a parent, what's it called? There is this network
support
they
group.
have among themselves. Support group.
AIDDN.
Yes, that, when government is able to reach out, these people will be able to come out, better policy will be made, because it goes beyond just detecting.
Right.
We are talking about a lifetime
It's a lot.
taking care of somebody and trying to make somebody get to fit into the society.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. On Facebook, someone is a bit shocked. He said, "Oh, is Lionel Messi autistic?" Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So early diagnosis could help a child still become the best that they can be. Let's take a final call from Shegun. He's calling from Ajegunle. Shegun, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Wemimo.
Good morning.
Actually, I want to contribute to this one you are referring to.
Go on.
The thing is, especially most parents of those children with autism, I'm sorry to say, they are not well to do. Like I live with one now. I don't know if Madam Onofoko can help us make more effort with the present government, if there's a way they can revamp that Lasoda, at least.
So, Madam, a lot of these comments are coming onto your table because you've been in government as a special advisor. Is there something you can do right now? You have to answer this one, at least.
I don't know. I really don't know, because my expectation is at least none of us has lived under the rock.
Right.
So people cannot say that we're not aware of what went on in the area of disability under the past administration.
Right.
Nobody can say they were unaware. And if they were unaware, I would say it's too bad.
Many of the comments we've had in time past talking about general governance issues is that people in government don't know these issues exist. Is this true? That they don't know, the governors, the commissioners, the ministries, the parastatals, they really don't know the anonymity of the issues.
If you do not know, then you do not have a right to be in government.
Which is what I think.
Because government is for you. Even if you do not know, as a commissioner, your subordinates should know and enlighten you.
Right.
So if the new administration say they do not know, then it's unfortunate. And if they do know, I'm not campaigning for myself. I'll never do that. If they do know and they want to continue, then they can. But if they do not want to continue, then the question is, are you in government for a select few? And if we are running an inclusive government, there's a disability law now from the federal government. Even that one has issues.
Yeah. And it took so long before it was even
There's a disability law. The house is not handicap accessible.
We actually celebrated it when the bill was passed into law. I remember Daniel bringing a cake here. We actually cut a cake to celebrate the disability law.
For me, it's a beginning. The terminology is also wrong.
Right.
Because the terminology we use is physical disability. There's cognitive disability that you do not see.
Yeah. What if it's not physical?
If I do not talk to you, I don't know whether you're deaf.
Right.
If you don't look at me, I don't know whether your eyes are properly coordinated and that you're only seeing partially.
Mr. Nofoko, there's a lot more to look at on this issue, and many of our callers have put you especially on the spot on this one. But big thanks to Mr. Bidemi Yunusa, head of school Patrick Speech and Languages Center. Fantastic work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I must say, Patrick Speech
They do.
has been a leading light, for special children.
They do.
Yeah. Go check them out, by the way, if you need some help. If they can, I'm sure they would be glad to. You can check out Patrick Speech and Languages Center online and just ask your questions. Mrs. Joy Tonofo is a licensed practitioner in disability and specialist in the care for special children. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
More conversations continue on our Twitter handle at Nigeria Info FM. You can also reach me on Twitter. There's a lot to talk about at Wemimo Sport. We'll be seeing you tomorrow. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Sheriff Quadry.
We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.
Bye.
No, before you go, mommy.
I'm going to